being kind of billed as a curator of this event, I have to say actually that I've been talking with Tongo since last year, wanting to do something with him here in this space especially, and asking him, what do you want to do? And at some point, both of us independently thought of this gathering with he and QR Hand and David Henderson, and then we realized that's what we should do. Tonight we have QR Hand, who is originally from Harlem, who has been living and helping shape the cultural and I think artistic landscape of San Francisco for about 40 years, maybe more. He's the author of 3 books of poetry: I Speak to the Poet in Man, How Sweet It Is, and Who's Really Blues. He's been a member of the Wordwind Chorus, a quartet that performs poetry and jazz for over 20 years, and his work has been widely anthologized in a whole bunch of anthologies. That's repetitive, including in Black Fire, an anthology of Afro-American writing, edited by Amira Baraka and Larry Neal, which was reissued by Black Classics Press just a few years ago, and also in the Outlaw Bible of American Poetry, both of which also include the work of David Henderson. David Henderson lives in New York, and I think this is kind of a home away from homecoming for him. He lived here for many years, teaching at UC Berkeley and UC San Diego, and was involved with the Third World Liberation Strike. His best-known books of poetry are The Mayor of Harlem and Neo-California. Those are the only 2 he specifically seemed to want me to mention, but The Low East is one of the books I love most. Like, I travel with it. And you too, Tongo. I think those have stopped a couple bullets that I don't even know about. He's the author of the lyrics to Sun Ra's Love in Outer Space, and is recorded with Ornette Coleman, David Murray, and Butch Morris. He came out of the Lower East Side in the Umbra Group and was involved in the early days of the Black Arts Movement with Amira Baraka. And we have Tongo Eisen-Martin, who's a San Francisco native. Tongo's clarity of intention and ability to carry that out as a poet, a person, and a movement worker has people either clamoring for more or, I think, running for cover right about now. His most recent book, Heaven Is All Goodbyes, is number 61 in the City Lights Pocket Poet series, which has included a long line of great poets beginning in 1955 with Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who's celebrating his 99th birthday today. His first book, Someone's Dead Already, is a phenomenal collection full of portals that kind of saved my life when I read it and was nominated for a California Book Award. He's a movement worker and educator who has organized against mass incarceration and the extrajudicial killing of Black people in the United States. And his latest curriculum on this, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce tonight to you 3 of the voices that I love most. By voice, I mean what they have to say, how they say it, and nobody says it like them. How they sound, the music of it. They're them as people in the world. And this is art that moves and turns me, and I find myself facing new directions and new possibilities. And I believe that the work of these 3 phenomenal people can do that for other people too. So Cue our hand.
Actually, people don't know it. QR couldn't make it. He sent this clone, RX2. So what I'm going to try and do is a medley. And it's going to be, if I remember what my medley is, it's going to be the rap from Living on Dreams. And then, How Sweet It Is. And then, I think I got it. Yeah. And then All the Sound Us, and then Devolution, and then Numberless. I'm going to try and do this like I was a real, medley. If I was writing all kinds of new things about how it even got worse, I ain't going to do that. Got to tell you my story, gotta tell you my story, got to play you my music, gotta sing you my songs. Yeah, I gotta tell you I stepped out here with nothing. That's what I'm holding on to, doing my damnedest to keep it too. I gave up on Ted Mack even long before I was born. Can't get next to Ed Sullivan, got no time for Dick Clark, that's for sure. I play backyard party, barbecue blues, those parties, projects, dance halls down the block. Music that matters, peoples who matters. Got to play you my music, gotta sing you my song. I ain't got no new dances to sweep up this nation with. No eyes filled with admiration from that sister with the big ones on the corner. Won't see my record shout to #1 on anybody's chart. All I do is play from the heart. Music, my music, sweet music. Music of the dreams we hide in basements, attics, little niches in the trunk of the car. And let me tell you, I do it without the producer's schemes. I'm living on dreams, worshiping sounds, not living on the usual way, on promise. I live on dreams. I left that almighty buck way behind. Beneath that rock, all the dollars holler from. They call me Duck, 'cause I don't give who. You know what? I'm living on dreams and worshiping sounds in a way that really counts for me. I'm living on dreams, worshiping sounds in a way that really counts. Hey, living on dreams, worshiping sounds. Listen to the sounds. Listen, listen. Listen, unfortunately, Louis isn't here, so I'm gonna da, 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 but hey, let me tell you one thing for sure. San Francisco is slow. San Francisco is so slow. San Francisco is so slow when you're in a hurry. Like when I'm in a hurry, waiting for a bus gets there so slow, like my time don't matter. America's so slow, lines at the bank move like money always has the same value, no matter what time it is. No matter how fast I need to move, this country is slow. Hey, San Francisco always snow and molasses in winter. Just begin, make time, catch up. Got to transfer to another, gets there slower than the first, and I've got to keep moving. Bus got me standing here waiting while my mind goes at universal speed, outracing a whole nation. I just missed the transfer. That revolution tried to bludgeon me with commitment, telling me to be free with each crack on the head. The revolution had no medical plan for my aching skull, demands doctors prescribe 9 to 5, lots of greenbacks for my headache. The revolution told my old lady to be free, didn't tell her how to relate to me, nor me to her, except give up some head once in a while for liberation. The revolution shot me and my friends up with media, hand in hand with the Netbush contingency plan, left me here with a spoonful of words. The revolution calls a squaw a typhoon, a shopkeeper a tycoon, a poem an anthem, turns rhythm into syncopation, creation into proletarian news, trains cadets to sing the blues and make-believe ballroom time, gives them marshal's degrees in critical arts and science. The revolution missed the people, and its zeal poured caffeine into the finest crystal, made a killing in blue jeans, dungaried the social register in dingy splendors, charging their public accounts with the masses' ragged debts. Passed judgment in lynch mob terms from university chairs reserved for the asses of the classes. The revolution turned the myth of the man into everyday truth. Made each difference a deep fault we fell into with only the weak fiber of me to pull ourselves up with, gave starry equations and splendid incantation, planting a collective maypole in the roots of spring, pulling universal need with the Central Committee's questionnaire. The revolution washed the brain out of my head in the name of our liberty. The revolution bought these Bentleys, cocaine, private jets in the California hills, jamming all night with Freedom Now and the 6 coquettes, caviar on their nipples, gyrating on peppermint sticks, coming to tell the truth to the city when tomorrow gets here. Maybe they come to get us in the morning. Hey, that revolution sent strollers on a long march without a map, mixed black and brown, mixed them all into a third concoction anyone can handle, not have to ask, is the real thing? Liberated space from everybody's closet, said, come on out, the mace is fine. From poolside haven, sipping Black Russians with a publisher or two, feigning a jab of reverence at each toast. The revolution stashed Panama Reds, Acapulco Golds, backyard greens into a natural crock, sent the brave into the jungle, the catacombs, to establish the territoriality of identity in the libraries of the cosmos, while workers jam pension funds with rich pollution, ate steak sprinkled with ethnic jokes. The revolution made a hole in me, trying to make a hole of us only we can fill. The revolution is you and me, listening to each other, filling holes with our guts, making holes with our love. The revolution is that steam shovel lyricism we're running back home to get now that we've been had and been a hullabaloo and everything else we thought we were missing. The revolution is our bloody love song, nobody's hit parade, but our own. Every dance hall and island, every island that David Murray plays all the time. Uptown this night, every day, under the palms in this quarter soars bearing fruits, colored multi-inlaid inmade laid all at once in all time zones at one time. So sweet, so tight, all over the places, one flush brass of the street slices, playing, even the lush sweet note for note for rendering with so much life and these so sweet, dark, so places, all over the place, so fast, slow like a good grind in a good, dark, dirty place, and then some, and then again some for us, for all of us, all the us's we've been making, done made, and planned to. This us that runs the winds from black to green and black again, red banner to the glowing sun, through to the dank shank-slit dungeon to be dead ones, or take a ballad, give me a novel every time. David Murray just can't help it, thought I had a tiger by the tail, but needs a jet to say with that sound, and how many laws against the music can they make anyhow? This ain't Johannesburg, however far from paradise. This music is just more, is more than is more than are, and all that. However far from paradise, contain them all, each one, note, riff, song, world, galactical splendors, every light, every sound, color reinventing itself, and every more possible. This is too much, this is too much, is so much more this is, and all, even that which not even there, so far, so high. If you stacked all dreams ever, it wouldn't reach, never end to end. How can he do so much at one time? So many things at once, too much, and right back to the dance hall, Lindy Bop, slop, slip, and slide on the corner of each and every corner all the time, and then weave us a new one. All the way back home, trance and woven in the oven, see the grease hit the pan, sliding all over so smooth after the first bop be bop. Up against the side, men and women, four mad hatters, an unemployed fire department from another country, a butcher, a TWA hostess, a transcendent case, musical haze, glazing sound, rhythm beating, you all up and down the realms of naked possibilities, jammed with blackberry glues, the comics from front to black, the judge executioner to some, blackball blind to the race of things, that's strung out too far to stop, but keep going more and more. This music is the antidote to the anti-life we face every day in every elemental basic beat way. We got to go low, roll, and tiptoe too. God done made you a musical child for sure, beautiful blood made surprise obsolete before the first turn. This absolute moment, that is until the next. They would condemn this virtuosity if they could, blowing our guts out through your mouth, quadruple time. Cat done gone crazy on us, letting the billowing tatters and traces of body and soul quivering in space we didn't even know was there before. He seems to have. We used to dance. We used to dance to the drums, to the drums, drumming, pulsating knowledge, stroking, stomp steps of flowing science, smoking howls of rhythm, imagining whys of delicate proportion. We used to dance to learn. We used to dance and learn to the drumming and the hum that wove the cells and stars into bright black eyes visions, stomp and stoke, pulsating language, all around flow of rhythm, balance, song of smoking howls ablaze with imagination's rigorous ways. Then this great cosmic joke, us not nimble enough to evade this snare of inhuman yoke, hot chains of identity, long drinks of serial symbols, washed down with lies we learn to earn, then yearn for, constructing identities, new local visions, transcendent process of militancy and mind trap. We wove ourselves in and out of these mysteries, landlords, history books, such textual intricacies ordered by the dean of the day erudition. We missed the dance, never noticed, while we learned to inscribe footnotes with fragments of bone, integrate identities that switch hats with dramatic celerity, sign checks with a third hand. We huffed and we puffed. We gladly became the house. Who is this act of torture for? Why is the whip in the hand of the priest, the diplomat? The stop sign thief runs amucking just down the block. Why did the officers get here late? Well, one time even, 4 little girls. Well, what did you say in a church in Birmingham? Another fact too trite for the time of the numbed gardenia, rancid seas. 3 feet away, some chiseler liberates the lifeboats to fill prescriptions for Grosse Pointe teas. Miami Beach Cubanos offer to enslave when the price is right. If sugar sucks greenbacks behind the curtain. See what is happening, Dick. Here, Jane, now. What is happening? Here, see, spot, run, now. What shall we do with our new definitions? Here, staring at the traces of quicklime on the edge of the trenches and ditches, on the lawn of this trustee, that turncoat who might approach at any moment, and the apple cart is tipping over. How do these wares do fit us? How do they? Where do anybody sit in this house overlooking these plains of desiccations, broken pipes of dream-on dappled desire that never got there? How do we move over in here where moonbeams cower in groups of 10 at noon? The guard feeds us a spoon of melting ice that always splashes our tuxedos. What happened to the dance, Jack? What happened to the dance? Us folks are the peoples who look towards the sea, vision and memory, past, perfect futures are strewn about our musics like seaweeds on the shore. Our eyes, hearts affired, dancing on, limbs aghast and bedazzled, caressing these sands, hand-clapping spirits. Our souls are numberless, like bands of the spectra. Our hues are numberless. Oh, jump back, brothers, see our sisters prancing on the sea, their curves and spheres rounding off the edges of the sands, making sheets of molten glisten. We are evocations of this There's sweet liquid strumming on these vibrant far reaches on our faithful shore. This ritual clamor we are on this shore, spelling out the seasons of reason. Numberless beings grow gills, sprout wings, drunken on the bottom of pink coral reef, then leap the sea, sailing easy to afar, to a star. We are stoned reflections of the view from there. These sands who do not know they are us. Not these sands, our foundations on these wheels of things, rolling shore, surf washed. Waves yearn to rolling murmurs on these grits, relentless too, in chains, in forms numberless, pastel and pale yellows mixed by the sea, wind, sun, our constant companions on this sphere, on this beachhead here, on our minds, and communal heart molds sands into cities and ports to welcome from the sea more ancestors, to be, to play on this shore notes of universal hide, seek, time. Here is numberless. We've known not its name. We are the growth here. We are the trees. We are the creatures here. So it is said, on which cosmic bet no wages subsist. Numberless are the names of this life on these sands, on the dream washed up on these shores. Us folks are on, the peoples who look towards the sea. Looking towards the sea. Our songs are the bread of the shore, our spirits, our spawn. On these quick sands, we name ourselves numberless. Yo. Now, you see, I got a chance to read with David Henderson and Tongo both here. Thank you all for coming out. Yeah. Hey, party on.
Thanks to the Luggage store for having us, and thanks to Ton for putting us together, and Tongo for baton cleanup. Anyway, I'm going to read a couple from Neo California, only in, good old California. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know, because I'm whatever. Well, is this okay? Okay, good, because I don't want to not just talk to myself, of course. Oh, where to start? This is a couple from Neo California. This is called Third World Strike, UC Berkeley, for Ken Monash. We have come to the end of knowledge when the libraries are full, and there's fighting in the street, and there's fire in the streets. The pleasant professors gape out of campus windows, supposition now instead of fact. This one here is called Trans. Berkeley trees running up the hills into a mountain. From below the marina, the bay of the Pacific, blue-gray reach, where the seabirds gather down by the rowboats dipping in a pool above the land that replaced the water. Smoke rises from a cigarette. The man sits on a rock. The seabirds do their cries when he is still. Each voice in their cries, some chatter, some lament, some laugh. The helicopter slaps through the blue mist above the dim city, white silver remote, tiny St. Francis Co. The wind blows full in the face into the body. The man walks in a circle, cigar smoke fumes from his lips. He divines. Briefcase perched upon a rock. The man walks in a circle. Divination. The beat of steel-winged elements through the sky. The seabirds shriek, winds wings flutter in despair, flying low to the ground. Beat of steel in the sky, sun swamps, sand, low shrubs, could be the jungle of Indochina. The man walks towards the whirlybird, his cowboy boots and brim, city slicker pinstripe suit, his San Francisco shirt, his alligator briefcase, his jar of reefer. Meets the helicopter at the low hut. Man and machine disappear into blue sky, Nimbus. Long time ago. Oh my God, let me go back. Oh my God. So much to say, so little time, right? Seasons of infamy, endless wars evermore. Seasons of infamy, endless wars evermore. As roosting beast of blowback genus, a continuous migration that darkens the sky, a nation made up of the survivors of tragedies, represented in boxes of light and in wavelengths of sound. As humanity, abstract and impartial, peoples chosen by God Almighty to look just like each other, transmutation of tragedy into infamy. This one here is to the little Leroy Jones, Emiri Baraka, little king, wizard of the blessed word. How could we not, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Oh, God. But this is little king, wizard of the blessed word. The little king in a common name, underdog's underdog, an extended brilliance mingles with pitch. Indeed, rather than Negroes, we were black and out of context. Probably in the wrong slum, but where there was such a crowd mixed downtown and east, ethnicity almost did not matter. We were low-income umbras, beneath the underclasses, possibly and probably at least, a step or so below having run away with hippies, or a class step or so above rubes or carnies, or recalcitrant jazz hipsters, all players within the extended jazz age of the Harlem Renaissance, too cool to belong to any uniformity of the squared. Others post-beat, before the beat was up. Others flung from the black ghetto bosom, rejected by exhausted mothers and fugitive fathers, peers of desire, perhaps, or just two. We sat within Malcolm X Shabazz's slain shadow. Roy, now Amiri, solace in grief, directed a poetry reading to raise money for this new school and theater of black arts, that word that made us afraid of our own selves, yearning now new power, now black in affirmation, as the Umbers had touted no more Negroes, as Malcolm X Shabazz had intoned of that so-called and phantom race, as Stokely was shouting deep down in the lynch plains of Lowndes County. It was black and it was power, and it was not tomorrow or of yesterdays, but right now, as right now can be. Something like that. Okay. This is great. I'm in San Francisco. It's beautiful. I dream about this place. Well, we're in New York. It's so hectic. We never get a chance to look around and see the sky as beautiful as it is. Here, distant mountains, waters. Jesus. I feel sorry for you. It's so nice, But anyway, congratulations. It's all good. It's all good. This is called Judy Brown's Vapors. And seeing what the evidence says, hearing no tales, counter catalogs, sequence channels of reportage. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, nevertheless, disaster of a lifetime, confronting billions of faces, evidence before multitudinous eyes, fire when dust becomes vapor, rising about unburned paper, Cars bursting in air, metal seemingly aglow, be it centigrade or Fahrenheit, but not molten, not hot. No gas tank explosions and seas of seemingly roasted cars, flipped as if magic tortoises, denied by fusion, force dust as vapor clouds, black out at 1/10 of a micron, the size of DNA. The payload of 110 stories of seemingly controlled demo, but no signature, just down with thunder, but no earthly impact. 500,000 tons flying away, blowing in the wind, as dust, as vapor, as illusion of total solar eclipse above the ground that would come to be known as zero. And it's still there. Thank you. It's a song, this is a poem called Little Ray for my father. Like when I went on to a funeral, and this is a habit in my family, the juniors are always called little, and the seniors are big, right? So I go to the funeral, and they don't know who I am, of course. This is a distant relatives in the South. But when I say, oh, he's Raymond's son, and then they started calling me Little Ray. So I've never had a nickname, so I think I will adopt that one. Little Ray. Main Street Express, distant horizons from speeding plateau. Red neon cross high in the night sky, a beacon to those passing by, and those in the rooms of homes below. A table for meals, a lamp, color on the walls. Those of us before and after our window, a scrim, blue lights on our face, staring at that which glows, casting gaze upon glass, the glare of human life, abstract street light refraction. The empire revolves, evolves, spinning horizon upon horizon. I survive, son of the Great War, blood memory of do or die, victory or death. I survive, my generous benefactor moving on. I never called him father until he returned to always. And speaking of fathers, this is a poem to Ted Jones, who, remember, he came out. He's one of the, he was the first person of the Beat generation I ever heard of in New York. I think he had Rent a Beatnik at that time. And I got pressed, I don't know, but I think that some people disputed his surrealism, his Dadaism, and Ted just kept going. And I think the last I checked before, he was the poet laureate of the African Organization of African States, among other things. But anyway, Ted Jones, all and more. Did he not ramble, or did he indeed ramble? Born colored at best in the Midwest, Ted Jones adding the A to his name to distance himself from the everyday Americans next door. In the midst of nowhere, he heard the sounds of jazz that would save his life, the sound that led him to change his sound from the most common to the unusual, not unlike the slight alterations of a note that would go from the well-tempered clavier to announce blues coming east in search of life and swinging style and people and a crowd, a game, a day in search of the bop to be, hitting the Big Apple to discover Charlie Parker, the king of jazz, and Jones himself become the prince of his hipsters who would progress to beat. But to ban the atomic bomb was not enough for Ted. He who needed jazz and dance and a language, culture, a way of life. Jazz inspired a life beyond only doom. Jazz, a word, a realm, a kingdom to inhabit, a kingdom with ranking figures from King Bird to that Lady Day to Prez Monk. For when the Beats abandoned jazz after Kerouac Jam with Steve Allen on national TV, TJ stepped up. When Allen, the beat, the path towards beat, the language and the melodies as a poem, the black man's heart and soul. TJ, living within the realm of that music, from flower power to black power and more. TJ always in the move talking much stuff, indeed mucho shit, hustling the energy, the chi of jazz to enliven and carry on. Ted Jones, poet laureate of the Organization of African Unity, the TJ of Bird Lives, the blues lyric for all to sing in the American poetry of the people. Oh my God, it's just so hard to, I don't know, at the Poetry Center, I had like an hour to read, which was like amazing. And now I think I'm kind of spoiled. But this one is out of the blue. You, out of the blue, and into the blues. You, out of the blue, you, out of the blue, vanish into the blue. You. Okay, I'm not keeping track of the time. And where's my drink? Oh man, this is so exciting. I'm sorry, I'm so excited. Oh, man. Okay, this is the Bankers Revolt. Bankers Revolt. And this is dedicated to Bernie Madoff. What's a banker? Bankers Revolt, Bankers Revolution, Revolt of the Bankers, the entire Western Guild, publicist bankers, journalist bankers, politician bankers, small town bankers, United States of Bankers, Global Banker International, Banker and Revolt, classic graphic, gentleman silk top hat, crisp white shirt, gleaming black tuxedo and shoes, dashing into the fray. Big bank broke beyond hallowed institutional interiors, wood personify, hand polished by Uncle Tom facade beyond corridors, neighborhoods, surveillance setters, high-rise ledgers, paper towers, stairways of smooth ancient marble, mafia cement foundation, vaulted ceiling parallel, giant sheets of bulletproof glass reaching, looming high in the sky. Bernie was a banker, a banker's banker, and innovator, a banker in progress and revolution. Bernie began as one of the self-effacing figures of the South Florida Country Club circa 1950 for those who were shunned by WASP of the era, near-white minorities who were also inhabitants of the secret, sacred book of Bernie. His base, Bernie base. Bernie can get you in, Bernie, get me in. A smiling Bernie, all right already. Confident yet modest, a nice guy who knew that money has no borders. Self-effacing model minority, architect inhabitant of the secret and mystic book of Bernie. Bernie can get you in if he wants you in. It was a favor, a good deal. Bernie, white-haired tendrils above a black topcoat, looking not unlike George Washington, stationed under a Park Avenue canopy. General of a continuous worldwide revolution, profit versus sucker, public lockout, private banks, transition seemingly seamless, now in real politic top game, moxie apex, asymmetrical fascism, public finance, corporate takeover, banker bailout, public debt, denying the rumor of credit denial, Ponzi globalization, fear leveraged by fear, your Egyptian dynastic analytics, counterfactual, counter-cyclical, high-velocity derivatives, accelerate, moral hazard for a hierarchy of suckers. Bernie's book vanished but not vanquished. 2. Revolt of the bankers, bankers in revolt. Nationwide, worldwide, Bernie the bankers, ringleader, direct revolution from minimum security prison cell, Bernie banking by jail mail, once a banker, always a banker, inevitable continuity set in motion, deals for as much money, deals for more money than has ever and will ever exist in the world, probably. $25 trillion out of Federal Reserve window to American bankers using accounting out of the ethics of Enron to pay bad paper off full face value. $55 trillion derivative worldwide market, $202 trillion debt commitment, the greatest show on earth, the biggest deal ever going bad, the biggest suckers of the millennium. Corporate credit as collateral, bad paper for gold futures, bad risk management hovers above the undiscovered bottom of an absolute abyss, transparency of illiquidity, confidence of the all-seeing paper eye, a banker's progress deals in looming perpetuities forever. This is, man, oh man, I'm telling you. I'm going to read these at the beginning. Okay, some short poems. Whose false flag? Whose false flag? Whose false flag is this? Competing false flags? False flag after the fact? The following day false flag? The false flag of convenience? The problematic false flag? The common sense false flag? The obvious false flag? The ridiculous false flag? The unlikely false flag? United false flags? False flags of the year, false flag lifetime achievement award. Deep game, theories of race, meet the genome, face to face, mirror on a screen, the future of eternity. Present, being in the present, a being in the present, present in the being. It could always be bullshit. Millions of billions, millennium imminent, narco-narcissists riding the Ponzi beyond the pale. They believe we will be safe in the police state. Pieces of beings in the street. I have my own social network. It is called My Face. And it's free to all of you. You can use it anytime you want. I'm going to end with this poem to Citizen Sarah Blanner. To Sarah Blanner, I just had to stop after seeing, convinced that she was killed in prison. And I knew this is strange. Anyway, Citizen Sandra Bland, DOA before justice. And the deceased citizen Sandra Bland is introduced by the deceased citizen Eric Garner. On his way to the grocery store, Eric Garner had no loose cigarettes to sell to those who lacked the funds for $13 packs of smokes. But even though Garner, a big affable guy, had just saved the idle posse of cops the trouble of breaking up a fight, those cops decided on the spot to take him in on some obscure aspect of their mission to interdict the sale of untaxed cigarettes to indigent tobacco addicts. Guilt or no guilt, Staten Island, New York quota would be fulfilled in or out of the moment. Garner was known to those cops, and they were known to Garner. His denials and pleas did not prevent his arrest. A man guilty of going to the food store for his wife and kids, family man of love, peace, overweight, diabetes, hard trouble, and due processes. Garner balks, but then quickly agrees to cooperate with being detained as the shortest and thinnest of the cops in a New York Yankee cap creeps up behind Garner and has to leap to gain an arm around his neck, his arm bent at elbow, making a ligature below Garner's chin. Oh, shoot. Video beholds the illegal chokehold, and with the other four cops, they take him down, seeking to handcuff him behind his back. As chokehold, Garner says, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." 10 more times in repetition, having only a few of those breaths of protest left before death. Had Garner perhaps turned and fought that little leaping cop and taken the majority of those 5 cops to the ground before completion of that illegal chokehold, Garner might be alive today had he slammed those criminal cops down and fought them like a father protecting his family. The chokehold cop eventually absolved of murder by a Staten Island grand jury. Whatever. But we go to the Texas Transportation Code. You must yield the right of way to police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and other emergency vehicles on the roadway. When you see an emergency vehicle, you should immediately move as near as possible to the right curb or edge of road to create a clear path for an emergency vehicle to pass on your left. Yet for figure to signal, Sandra Bland arrested, DOA, 3 days. Quote, she was found hanging from a cell partition with a plastic bag as ligature around her neck. The fingers that shaped the ligature bound with knowledge of the noose, novice hangman presentation to the state. A lovely 28-year-old woman of African-American descent, driving alone on a desolate roadway in the deep South, Texas, USA. The flashing lights of an emergency vehicle, the police car, comes up behind her. She pulls over at once and discovers the police vehicle with lights flashing is following her to the side of the road. And some official with a Texas Ranger crown, badge, and gun comes out from the squad car and stands at her driver's side window. There they are alone on some desolate old prairie road deep in the Old South. She's attractive, sassy, and speaks to her constitutional rights. But because she refused to put out her cigarette while seated in her car, this official will order her out of her car at the point of a gun. The figure who ties the ligature, oh my goodness, wait a minute, and forces her to the ground, her hands behind her back, and binds her with cuffs tight as can be. She's attractive, sassy, and calls him out of his name many times. Whatever amalgam of identification that breeds her fury to murder, quote, she was found hanging from a cell partition with a plastic bag as ligature around her neck. The fingers that shaped the ligature bound with knowledge of the noose. The fingers that shaped the ligature bound with knowledge of the noose. Part-time hangman, representation to the state. Anyway, that's all I'm going to read the sentence back. Thank you.
This dream requires more condemned Africans, or put another way, state violence rises down, or still life is just getting warmed up, or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions, or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. This is the worst downtown yet. And I've borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback face. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me. I threw it at the first bus I saw eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line numbered and on out the front of the White House. And hopefully you find comfort downtown. But if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. A special species of handshake lets all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. This coffin needs to quit acting like those are birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings, have no voice other than that of a white world dying. There are book pages in the gas pump, catchy, isn't it? The way 3 nooses is the rule, or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes, or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean, only to find waves made of 1920s burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. They're red flowers, but what's the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Book titles like Hero, You'd Make a Better Zero, or A Fur Coat Lady, The President is Dead, or Pay Me Back in Children, or They Hung Up Their Bodies in Their Own Museums, and other book titles pulled from a drum solo, Run Here, Hero, Lied the Hiding Place. All the bullets in 10 precincts know where to go. Ain't no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means that people did it and people do it. Understand that when in San Francisco and other places that was never really there. I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. It's just 6th and Mission Street. I don't know who's king. You know, king of thin things. You know, like America, I'm proud to deserve to die. I'm gonna eat my dinner extra slow tonight in this police state candy dispenser you all call a neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind a murderer's insomnia, or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police sirens. Guided by teeth goes the country. There's a cow's mouth on the flag. A peculiar notepad holds street life dear, but the writer's not here. He's somewhere talking to tombstones about the good old days of splashing reborn water on his latest face, or wondering how his old gun is doing in the afterlife, wondering how much death trap is in those gas station hours. It gotta be $1 million a day on this concrete island. New engine in the moon where it never goes down. I mean 72 straight hours of night. At least according to everyone's posture around here. 8:30 in the morning is really 30 minutes to closing. The city shuts down for a sleepy rat race. Elevator shoe shuffle to the nearest heaven, laughing with rats the whole way up. It's scabs everywhere. In puddles of city, in concentrated schools and TV-lit warm rooms, the light reveals military fatigue when it hits just right on the ties that are wrapped around the necks of lazy white guys. Empire is too easy, baby. Hey, tear at the walls all summer if you feel like it. Best way for a target to move is shooting back. Running for a tree line made of freeways. Wisdom says against a war machine on Tuesday, you stand no chance, but may we be the last poor men to play it safe. Cow's mouth on the flag. A politician raises his hand and the crowd shows their teeth. An oligarch raises his hand, little girls are not safe outside. You are all high, depressed, and comrades in function. A 15 minutes to closing in the city has survived another black rebellion. You know, we just paying dues by trash fires, not just anybody can set. And don't you love how deadly things whisper in the moment and men kill like feathers fall while everybody's screaming inside? The writer knows that death is not a matter of dignity, rather humor. In a house that smells like roach races, nuclear percentages on torn stoves, I mean, here life never was. Just lazy matches and manic inhumanity, hands rushing away from life towards stoves. What we doing here? Surviving, for no reason in particular. Because nobody gone far today, nobody will go far tomorrow. Trust me, hell and heaven cannot count. Strange gardens with secondhand clothes playing concrete wishes to be human so that it could be a cannibal, where they find you drenched. And dreams wish to be human so that they could be worthy arms for you to die in. Hey, greet them all, grandson. Prepare for the day when every child is common. Don't say we ghosts didn't write you a poem. And don't say we didn't dig your life. Remember the shotgun by the coat rack that everybody in the house knows how to use. Remember the tightrope made of needles for walking in between driveways and man-made best friends. Go ahead, grandson. Hey, tune this street again. Never mind this country kills musicians first. Broken neck night, scar neck light. You know, if these walls could write lyrics, they say, what's your angle, angel eyes? 30 to 50 rounds pass by on a street with no daughters. This street has no sons. Just young prisoners of war in a racist city that means to make capital. And we know so much. We know it all. We were stood against walls. Who's on the third cross around here? Cow's mouth, salivating over the street. And that is the story of why we aim at teeth. A tour guide through your robbery, he also is. Cigarette saying, look what I did about your silence. Ransom water and box spring gold, this decade is only for accent grooming, I guess. Ransom water and box spring gold, the corner store must die. War games, I guess. All these tongues run this junk. You know, the start of mass destruction begins and ends in restaurant bathrooms that some people use and other people clean. Hey, you telling me it's a rag in the sky? Waiting for you, yeah. We've written a scene, we set a stage. You know, we should have fit in. Warehouse jobs are for communists, but now more corridor and hallway have walked into our lives. Now the whistling is less playful and the barbed wire overcrowded too. My dear, if it is not a city, it is a prison. If it has a prison, it is a prison, not a city. When a courtyard talks on behalf of military issue, all walks take place outside of the body. Dear life to your left, a medieval painting to your right. None of this really makes an impression. Crop people living in thin air. You have 5 minutes to learn how to see through this breeze. When a mask goes sideways, barbed wire becomes the floor. Barbed wire becomes the roof. 40 feet into the sky becomes out of bounds. When a mask breaks in half, mind which way the eyes go. You know they killed the world for the sake of giving everyone the same backstory. We're watching Gary, Indiana fight itself into the sky. Old pennies for wind, for that wind feeling you get before the hood goes up and over your headache. Pennies that stick together, mocking all aspirations. Stuck together pennies was the first newspaper I ever read, along with the storefront dwelling army that always lets us down, where the Holy Spirit favors the back room. Souls in a situation that offer 100 ways to remain a loser. Souls watching a clock, hoping their eyes don't lie to sad people. What was we talking about again? The narrator asked the graveyard, 10 minutes flat, said the graveyard. The funeral only took 10 minutes. Never tell that to anyone again. You just gonna pin the 90s on me? All 30 years of them? Then why should I know the difference between sleep and satire? The pyramidal corner stores fell on our heads. We died right away. That building wants to climb up and jump off another building. These are downtown decisions. Somewhere on this planet, it's August 7th, and we running down the rest thinking one more needs to come with me. What evaporated on Earth so that we could be sent back down? Capitalists dropped 10 tons of barbed wire on my Tuesday shift. We shot back at the chimpanzee pilot for the sport. The contractor has already smoked 3 cigars only an hour into my court appearance shift. Supervisor likes the smell, says it reminds him of when he ran the streets, and all I remember is we shot back. A gated puppet dances alone. Bars and Jig says, I'm the happy one of Legion. Meanwhile, kids commit childhood behind his wooden plaster joints, wire dodgers under this silly puppet, a silly puppet dancing for white heaven. Like weapon is the jacket, and precinct holds Friday hostage. We go through a fossil John and see a judge. The tunnel at the end of the light. I sleep until woke by dry cereal and surrender. This holding cell only needs a giant panhandler's palm to shake us coin men around. I'm breaking my fingers for my sister's bill collectors. Garage casket open, I mean all third world parallels kill openly. Breaking my lungs for my sister's rent. I'm the sculptor of construction dust. I miss cigarettes by mid-morning. I miss Henderson by sundown. I miss murder by inches. $5 bills cherish my days outside, always behind. There's no concentration in this courtroom. Just a bunch of B+ students living out their nightmares. How do I plead with a straight face? 2 blocks up is a reoccurring cliff, along with slavers' paraphernalia, along with the ordinary panhandler, along with ethnic parade history, along with the ethnic parade, along with 13th graders. But let's talk about the fact that 4 dead children later, I still don't have a problem beating you up in front of everybody. And let's talk about the fact that money is death. Down to my last $5 is what I call this shoe. 10 o'clock political education is what I call this dream. I got the job is what I call this blues. 2 days later is what I call a cliff. I'm off to make a church bell out of a bank window. Kitchens meant more to the masses back in the day, and before that we had no enemy. Now, somewhere in America, the prison bus is running on time. You're going to lose that job before the revolution hits. And somewhere I won't be home for breakfast. Everyone out here now knows my name, and I won't be turned against for at least 4 months. The cop in the picket line is a hard-working rookie. The sign in my hands get more and more laughs. It says the picket line got cops in it. Now, I can take care of those windows for you if you want, but someone else got to go inside your gas tank. It was clear to the man that rich people had talked too much this year. And why don't you go ahead and throw down that Marble Park bench everyone's looking up at? Get the Romans out of your mind. Maybe a good night's sleep would have changed the last 20 years of my life. Playing the instruments like punching the wall. And what would you have me do? Replace the population? Give brotherhood back to the winter? Stop smoking cigarettes with the barely dead? They listen in on the Sabbath. Police called the police on me. It was a white candlestick beneath my detention. I ruined the soup again, thought the judge, as he took off his pilgrim robe behind the white people's door and more. I didn't get lucky. I got what was coming to me. He toast. Hey, fight me back, the man said. Of course, to himself, washing windows with a will to live, tin can on his left shoulder, enjoying the bright, brand new blight with all party goers, both supernatural and supernaturally down to earth. Hey, what is this elevator traveling side to side? Like 1,000 bitter Polaroid pictures that you actually try to eat. All the furniture on the street nailed to the cement. Cheap furniture, but we have commitment. This morning, an essay opens the conversation between enemies. Why? Because you control every grain of processed sugar between here and the poor man's border. Because in the tin can on my left shoulder, I can hear the engines of deindustrialization. You should get in a painting, tell lies more deeply. This month, I'm rooting for the traitor. Carting cement to my pillow. Here we will build. I'm high again, not talking much. And once you climb up the organ pipe to our apartment floor, I'm high again, calling everything church, singing along to a courtyard, thanks to a horn player's holy pastime. I'm just putting a real jacket on it. Talk about a real 5 years. Keep memories like these in the pocket next to the toll receipt. That man lost a wager with the God of good causes, stood up for himself a little too late. Shit, maybe too early. I can still see 20 angles of his jaw zigzagging through the cold world of deindustrialization. There's an art to it. I will tell my closest friends one day. We had the funeral in the garage, but I think he was long gone. A narrator on distant rooftops, smoking with new friends. From beyond the vigil skyline, serious footwork can be seen, especially when loose acquaintances look at all the candles and flowers with opera of violence on their minds, introducing you to the concrete when the colony was in its prime and not for shuffles. Two different dates share the same daylight. We slow walk from the corner store into a flashback, Dust doing most of the talking about weird wars on the streets and whoever's fixing the drinks tonight. Whoever is must be suicidal. There's a chessboard underneath these tough guys. From beyond the vigil's jungle is the easy side of autobiography. Pretty interesting place to start a war from. Front yards are for having problems with the world. It's an easy range for the angel of everything under the sun. That's right. I could cut my throat with the sun. Hey, hold your breath on my street if that's what you've always done. I'll tell you what his eyes say. They say all dust eventually has to be human. In his pockets is winter already. Knuckle, then wrist, then psalm. In street green letters, here lies in half asleep young skin, a tattered page one. All staircases are open air and will be the first to talk if the poor so will it. Page 2 is just pieces of subtitle, mouths talk last. Page 3, someone's dead already. Someone has taught him a sign. Page 4, every system is suicidal, the poor so will it. Bus loops its route, last stop already. Man, let him sleep again. It's all staircase air. And I remember when he was eye to eye with the lowest branch, crying breath into the hand of an avenue, our shirts made somewhere in the land of firsthand. Trash wasn't yet trash. Running away really wasn't running away. My shoes would witness an informal prayer. Something like, I know you see me. What should I call you? I'll never be anything you need to forgive. And we've been knew heaven years ago. Heaven becomes our street shoulders, which are his, which is a homegrown cadence. On a city bus, rubber and brief eyes, man, he was the saint of strays. The first story you learn in San Francisco. Moving with Slider Street, which is his. My little brother slides, the smoke says still. From a 2-floor skyline, an abandoned house talked to me. It said, young man, you are heroic and 10 years old. Among 20 generations of friends, friends will free fall away, free fall up. They will free fall the walls with 5th grade speed to industrial paint. Behind secondhand fences, young men use quick knife tones. Be bone and brass, be last laugh music. You are always leaving. Always one change of clothes from the door of life and escape. A 2-floor skyline said you're the guy that dies in the middle. The friend more blues than skin. The face that cheap hotel schizophrenics can place. With 90 mile per hour right eyes. Among dry heat killers. Once children, 3 feet high, and roaming, and repeating, and aiming at cotton mirrors that hang on breathing walls. You are 10 years old, tagging along, yawning at well-lit violence, whistling tool shop songs. You will be useful. You will be high and alone. Flying on a nephew, dragging from a $20 family in the sky that calls itself just more soil. Around walls that are just walls, except these walls suggest you make wives out of highs and currency. Here the air is polite to sleepy glass and bullying walls. Young man, you will come to admit that sometimes suicide is power. And some people live stronger as ghosts. And sometimes the afterlife empties. Billions of souls enter objects like playground bullets and abandoned door frames. Even broken glass will prove it has voice too. There are 24 hours behind your back. Hey, look over your shoulder right now. Can you hear it? The sound of drums punching themselves out. The sound of piano parts learned in between assassination attempts. Be bone and breast. Be bone enough for two souls. Be invincible again. They suffer red-eyed accents, professional fingertips, gifted victims, 6 in the morning beer, the first month of probation, to shout at the wall. They see these words, they shouldn't be home. And look behind you again. Be invincible again. Be windward. Be a sad machete. Be her son. Be a thief. Steal his back. Laugh too long. And don't never look away. The afterlife will empty and walk you home. You know, if you reverse the car any farther, you will run over all the scenes in the back of your mind. Shit. I never cared for teachers, just the patterns of their fainting spells, you know, of course, induced by wall art, all that to say propaganda is courage, man. You know, the price sticker hides my tattoo. I treasure my problem with the world. My mother becomes from Brooklyn first thing in the morning. That's a proverb around these parts. Proverb, a peasant entrance password, writing short notes to famous Europeans on the back of postcards with ransom requests. They reply with a newsreel or cigarette announcement. I can't tell the difference. Noble dollars, then you die inside, but on the inside, they call it sleeping deeper than your stalker. And stalker's all that badge makes you, says a great spirit dressed in the bloody rags tuxedos became. Meanwhile, my punch is feared by no one. Hey, proud of yourself? I ask my fret hand. Porch lights is what they call our guns. I've seen this house in a dream. I believe a trumpet was the first possessed object to fly. Keep going, she cheers. The draft in the room becomes a toddler obsessed with an altar. The altar becomes a runaway train. I got 1,000 paintings like these cascading down my skinny arms, dictionaries piled up to the window bars, a reminder to the population that your blanket can work with or against you. Human reef. We will be a big human reef for concepts that finally gain a metaphysical nature, and they will swim around our beautiful poses. We stop being flashbacks, then stop being 3 different people. Then I was alone, the pistol 1 city away. One of the drug triangles lines runs through my head. I tap the bottle twice and consider the dead refreshed. Hey, don't you want to rest your bravery? Don't you want to be a coward for a little bit? Back and forth to a panic attack with no problems nor fears, a man gets a facial expression finally. A Friday finally goes his way. His life is finally talked about happily in his head. Man, I can't possess the body of a hermit. I must be the last of his smoke. Now running the other way with 3 blocks of alley tucked under my arms. You ever see a man get to the bottom of his soul in a car ride down a missing cousin street? Half step to the right. I mean, I took the whole car outside of history. Half step to the right. I mean, a whole pack of wolves stepped to my left. Road marker is what I call the light bulb we had for a sun. A whole civilization might slink to the sink, or a chain gang shuffling next to a sucker, also known as the lone look in the mirror. A stack of money starts talking from 4 cities away. I'm gonna leave it alone now.
Up into Central Park there. I mean, we would walk down 7th Avenue and then cut up to the right. My brother was, although younger than me, he was a pretty bad dude, so we didn't worry about that. And Gus, Cocker Spaniel, I mean, this was, you know, he was nice and mellow. And this was in the mid-50s. I mean, when, actually, how young were we in the mid-50s? I don't know, man. How old were you in the mid-50s? Did you hang out there? Did you know Central Park then?
In Harlem?
Yeah.
Well, you know, by that time I moved to the Bronx, to the South Bronx, and we were singing doo-wop in the hallways and projects and stuff, making beautiful echoes, which I still, if I walk into a room that has a great echo, you know, it's just beautiful. And of course, you know, doo-wop was the precursor to hip-hop, as far as this is my theory, in terms of the bass, because you had to have a bass, you know, singing these parts, harmonies, you had to have a bass. And I could sing bass and baritone, and so, you know, but, you know, anyway, it was beautiful. I still remember those songs too, you know. Oh, let's
go on to my baby. Oh, oh, precious mama, me, my baby. Oh, spabba-doo-doo, dabba-doo-doo, babba-doo-doo-doo. Oh, ba ba ba, ba bum 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 bum. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
So that's what they didn't do, is combine doo-wop with bebop and scatting. See, now this is, at last. Yeah, you have to copyright that.
You know, you would have thought that the music would work its way around and liberate our asses from the man's dumb shit. And for a while we did. And not only that, there are all these survivors and all those people who might have heard some of that, and they gave it to other people. Now, I think maybe one of those other people might be this big tall brother over here, you know, and he be, the shit he be doing, oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. It sent our ass all over the place. And we wonder, we was talking about how things are supposed to be really happening about, but in order to do that, we would have to look at all the different things that were happening that we were creating survival shit from. So that then all of a sudden there was these people like, hey man, I'm not trying to put it on you, man. Just because you're sitting over here to my right, I was wondering if, no, but maybe David can help us get over there. Yeah.
Do what?
I'm trying to get over here to our friend on the right, Tongo. But we were trying to come from, that old time place, Manhattan, the Bronx, the Brooklyn. That kind of things that they were saying.
I have to tell the story about Tongo because it was happened so recently.
Yeah.
But you were listening to, he was playing us this cassette of, he was playing us this cassette of him doing hip hop. Man, I said, man, this sound good, man. And the thing about it was, he told me they were sampling a record, right? And they had trouble with people. And I said, well, who were you sampling? And so he played it for us, and it was Minnie Riperton, right? I said, man, that's the one person, and who you never mess with. People were so angry with people messing with Minnie Riperton because she died, so tragically. And I don't think he knew that, but the rapping was excellent. And I think that certainly hip-hop is connected to the Black Arts Movement, is it not? Of course it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Of course it's connected to the Black Arts Movement. And I don't know why. I don't think I hear that said very much. What? Maybe you all have. Maybe I haven't. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that.
No, listen, I just want to pass it on to him so he can keep going with what you mentioning. I was trying
know, that was some clandestine music you heard, man. You know what I mean? You was supposed to keep that low. From a past life. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
You know, if each one of you can comment on QRN, you mentioned you about the civil rights movement, and David Henderson, you were with the Black Ops movement, and Tongo, you were with the movement, and the new stuff, observation, and if you could comment on that, especially you all being in the arts, writing a poet, could you comment on it? And about your life here in Scotland?
Well, Umbra started as a writers group on the Lower East Side, when the Lower East Side of Manhattan was very integrated, very multicultural. There were a lot more people of color around. And it was that the civil rights movement was going very strongly. And Umbra and they were very closely identified. The first Umbra statement in the magazine said that it was believed in, writing about social issues, and fostered that. There was a thing at the time, and I think it still happens to some extent, where people said, well, you shouldn't write about politics or stuff like that. And of course, that's completely wrong. But anyway, people from the movement came to our workshop. In fact, we produced the first magazine at the Legal Defense Fund's offices after hours, because the person, Tom Dent, who convened all these black writers living downtown, worked for them as a publicist. So we knew those people, Marion Motley and the other guy who was running, I forget some of the names, but we also had visitors to our workshop, which was a Friday meeting of James Meredith, who was integrating Old Miss, Charlene Hunter, Andy Young, a lot of the SNCC workers and CORE people also. CORE was more leftist at the time. And so we participated in those events, and we linked a lot of stuff to what was happening in the movement, and especially in the South. So that was, we all considered ourselves to be activists, and when Umbra went into another phase, most of the people in Umbra went into doing the type of stuff, organizing or working community groups and stuff that Tongo is doing today. So.
I'm not speaking before you on this, man. Speak
Actually, okay, got it off of us. Give it to Tom.
So clearly the political times, context, history is different in the early 60s, late 50s, mid-60s, etc. from now. So do you see how that's reflected in the poetry differently?
Well, truthfully, there were so many different ways that the movement was going in the influencing of the poetry. You would find David over here. You would find Ishmael over here. You would be able to find Leroy Jones, later to become Amiri. All the different ways of weaving poetry into public statement. It's just stuff that hit me, so that I started trying to do something along that line. Oh my God! I mean, before that I was just hung up in the word. Now I was hung up in spirit, and there was spirit in the word. I didn't know it. How could it be in Plano every day? Till these guys on the Lower East Side, there at Umbra. It wasn't just guys also. But anyhow, I don't know. Did that touch you, man? Yeah, I know you were a little bit younger than us, but you was bad.
Man, I just don't feel like I should be talking, man. It's just, I feel like I should be sitting over there, you know, just soaking it in. I think I think now is like the time for everybody to be a revolutionary first, regardless of what your discipline. Right on. Regardless of how you get down. I think like I do have, I get a little, like each gives me a little bit of a head start in the other, because in writing poetry, I do get I play with the sense of a kind of like a whole picture, and find the little intersections and moments of convergence where, you know, the political reality and the human reality play out down in all of the little details. So, and then on the on the flip side, through the political work, really to me is just kind of like humanizing work, and therefore and really defending and resisting on behalf of human beings. So it's kind of like both reinforce each other, but are not any type of special combination that can't be achieved through other disciplines or aspects of life. So it's we've kind of revolutionary first now. I aspire to be a revolutionary miles before I try anything to accomplish anything on a piece of paper. And we're headed towards such a, these times, even though it's kind of, it feels like we can just kind of ride like a little school bus through this era. We're running out of time. We need revolutionaries now. We need everybody to basically. We need masses of people that will just find oppression, untenable, and won't put up with it, And whatever we got to do to bring people to that truth, to bring people to that consciousness, that's what I'm going to remain into.
Well, I was going to say something about that revolutionary. Because you're here talking to other people a little bit younger than what me and David have been talking to, yet as a continuation, well, within that, you have kept some, and maybe even more of the very, very song, the music of the happening of this, which in fact, without which music, we wouldn't be moving. We wouldn't be moving, and lots of people wouldn't be moving. You caught that and how you did it. He's one of the dudes that invented it in New.
Invented what?
How would we be doing music through revolution, or revolution through music, or something like that?
I think so, of course. We had these benefits in New York. There's one, the Spirit, Amiri did it with Motown, and it was at the Apollo Live. We had all these live shows. But I think that what's happened now is that people, being a revolutionary, when you see like Malcolm get killed like that, which really devastated us, began the Black Arts Movement. I think this is to react to that. But I think that also people nowadays of a younger age see that a lot of black leaders were killed. A lot of revolutionary leaders were assassinated and hounded. And so there's that kind of thing to deal with. God, there's so much to say about it. But I always think of this, to try to look and say, okay, what has been changed? I mean, the Third World Strike at Berkeley, or the strike we had at City College in New York that had the Black Studies program in New York for a little while, but here it's still going on, ethnic studies. I don't know how it's doing, but that was something that people really had to fight for. And that revolutionary aspect, there's so many issues to fight for, but my God, look at the climate is coming down on us, so I think that people also are concerned. And then, and that people want to eat.
But I'm sorry.
I just, David, you had a poem years ago. It was a Gretsch, and it was Alvin Jones. So, Gretsch drums. It's about musicality. So, saying the continuity of what Tongo is doing, it is so real to my ears from hearing Jimmy Lyons and my sister Taylor and recording and hearing that. So it's apparent. I mean, it's so strikingly, viscerally there that, here, it's just like, so, as you said, the music is the spirit of people, like what needs to be carried on. So, how do we, it's great for, we've got panels and, we're here, and people are doing this, so how do you do this in social media, or I'm old school, I don't do any of those things. So, I like old guys, and we're here, and so David, QR, Tongo, who are you listening to right now that, just popping it for you? What makes you go on? Alvin Jones is not here, the spirit is here, the drums are here, Gretsch is here, Gretsch. So Tongo here, and I said, man, I just Jimmy Lyons is in your voice, man. I can hear that shit. I can hear that intonation. I can hear that pop. And that's the thing that's really beautiful. So how, it's an open-ended discussion about who makes you, who you listen to, what makes you pop, how do you get to that point?
Man, I was, well, raised on the greats, brother. But I give you kind of like I give you a kind of a craft answer to that. And actually, this is kind of like a strategy I lifted from something that Sonny Rollins said, that when he's putting together a solo, he presents a cliche, and then he walks away from it towards his subconscious. And that's kind of the same strategy that you can actually apply to the page, because I take what can be described as a cliche or something in the observable universe, and I stretch it, or I start walking towards something else. In a way, it's almost a matter of how you hold your mind. And if you can hold your mind in that kind of like that middle ground of exertion but not control, there's all type of just kind of like music available as you walk towards your true self.
Bum, 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 bum. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I totally forgot what I was going to say. But oh gosh. In closing, last questions.
I know, like Amy Baraka, he has launched protests on his own on a flatbed truck in front of South African Airlines, protesting against apartheid. He was actually kind of in the forefront. Later came the other protests, but and Sonny Sanchez was involved in Black Studies in San Francisco State. The FBI was knocking on the door. So, once again, I'm gonna ask, like, QR, like, you were involved in the civil rights movement, like, tell us what aspect you were involved in, and the same with Tongo and Mr. Henderson. Just what was it about?
What was it? What?
With the different movements.
Oh, right.
Like I said, QR, you were involved in the civil rights movement and the other movements also.
Well, the problem with, we were involved in more of a multicultural, interracial thing because we were living downtown. Some of the nationalists in Harlem wanted just to deal with black people of the same color, which we didn't agree with. But it happened anyway. In other words, we were all able to work together. Amiri invited us to a Black Power conference, and Amiri actually took it to a whole thing. We had the elected leaders having conferences and speaking together in rallies, and I think that something disillusioned him about where that went, But I think people have to just keep working at it, But I don't. There was so I know for us downtown. One thing that I can speak to that's a perfect, I think, example is that SCLC, when they went came out against the war in Vietnam, that was like a real big deal.
That was very important.
Right, and Allen Ginsberg, living downtown, who was a great activist, and they asked the Vietnam Moratorium Committee for someone from SNCC to come, and so this guy, from SCLC, and so Reverend Bevel, who was a controversial character at this time, but at that time he was great, and so he came there. They asked me to come around just to kind of be there, because they were so unsure of working with black people, which of course that was the time that we were living in. But that happened, and the parade went off, and it was a beautiful thing to see SCLC and the Vietnam Moratorium Committee do something that was really had a lot of political impact. So that was a big victory, I would say.
Hey,
What?
I was just going to pass this on to Tongo.
I would get involved with anybody who would like to get involved with me. The end. Except Except some of the, except them people.
Hey, I'm going to tell another story on Tongo. I went with him to, he spoke before the Tenderloin workers, which were like 400, you know. And it was very interesting. He was talking about being in Mississippi and organizing in Mississippi. And then it kind of stopped, and I had to ask him, I said, well, what happened to the group? And he said, well, they got taken over by politics, and they got hired to do stuff, and it kind of broke them up. And so I said, well, how would you prevent doing that? And he said, well, he would just have people deal with each other on a person-to-person level. But, you know, but he had an answer or figured out something to overcome that problem as it occurred. Maybe you could say it better than I do.
I see now there is no telling you anything in confidence. That is strike two, brother. I was just playing with you. Nah, I was just playing with you. Man, there's so much to go into about Mississippi. Actually, something I wanted to talk about politically, what's going on in the political climate today, what kind of chews up things and chewed up things in Mississippi is a lack of ideological clarity. And so instead of politics being in charge, we had a situation where personalities is in charge, and therefore some people can kind of do whatever they want without having to justify it against an agreed upon set of principles. And so I think what we need now, we have this spontaneous kind of resistance, but we have a lack of ideological clarity right now, and I think that's one of the most crucial ingredients of things to figure out, because right now we basically, a lot of this movement, a lot of modern movement has very much kind of like a petty bourgeoisie orientation, and like projecting professional class culture onto mass movement. And taking a lot of this kind of like grassroots energy and shipping it to the moon, where a lot where a lot of these efforts don't have an impact on the day in, day out reality. So it's kind of like along the lines of what Makar Cabral talked about. You have to synthesize revolutionary culture from mass culture. And so, there's a lot of ideological, a lot of cultural work to be done. I don't think it's not. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a tall order, but I think that is the order, one of the orders of the day.
Well said. Well, within that, I'm going to just go back to. I first met David, whose early work informed my getting ready. Let me try and see if I can do a poem or two about what's happening. But if I remember correctly, we started, I first remember meeting you before meeting you with the Lower East Side, with the Umbra people, up around 147th Street between Bradhurst and 8th, where Carl Anthony, a visionary architect, had put together, how do we have some old, territory of our own? So he helped, and his brother Lewis helped try and organize, and I'm saying try to organize a political a cultural movement out of one square block. Yeah. Now, within that, there was the clearing out of all the clutter and all the backyard and all of that, and was trying to say, hey, let's make our neighborhood commons right here, right our territory. And there was fine with doing of that. And there were all kinds of things. Lou Anthony, quite a brilliant person, talking about how we needed to learn computers and all kinds of things like that. And this, by the way, is back in the mid-'70s. Lou was begging and getting all kinds of stuff from I'm getting old, so what do you call it? IBM. I mean, he was getting all kinds of those kids, setting up backyards in the openings onto those backyards, so these young people could learn how to do all kinds of different things, and they even helped them make a pigeon coop, a modern super duper pigeon coop up there. Yeah, all these young persons doing that. Well, when you start to think about that, when I stop to think about that today, what is really left of that except a number of different young people who might be the age of many people here right now, who have a vision different about the little things that could happen in Harlem differently, even though our big plans and Carl Anthony's big vision didn't fly. But there were lots of different feedback and edges off of that flew out, so that people kept doing things all along. And I think those efforts are really important. We need to talk about those efforts which kept many of us going at that time, and there's no telling what it's still touching. I think if I had enough cash, I could go back and look at that square block and say, oh, what did actually happen here? I think some things did. Many times, some things did. Many times, some things did.
We wish we could go on all night, but you know, there's so many stories to tell. I think we should plan to keep meeting in some way or another. It continues, because that's I got that message from Tongo about just the people staying together, working together. One thing about the Lower East Side, people are really close, and so that really worked for us living in that environment. And we found out that black people lived downtown longer than they lived in Harlem. Which, yeah, well, I mean, it's true. The African Burial Ground has a whole history of that, and it's cooking artwork and sculpture, and you can visit there, and it's just magnificent. And then I saw Scorsese's The Gangs of New York, and
I think that people got to that area that was called,
5 points?
Yeah, 5 points, and then it got picked up to, because ultimately it was the area that Thelonious come from. But that was what
Near Lincoln Center, yeah. San Juan.
It was worked its way kind of up from what was it called? Killer's Point?
San Juan Hill?
Yeah, but it was San Juan Hill, but it was before San Juan Hill, the black part of it.
And I think Central Park was a part of that too, right?
Okay, now that was, they know you. I'll be quiet because we're trying to get out of here.
I know.
Thank you, Tongo Eisen-Martin, QR Hand, and David Henderson.
Yeah, naturally. You know.
And I don't know. And the Luggage Store Gallery, celebrating 31 years.